we come to you to receive the food of your holy word.
Hey everyone, welcome to the program. If you have a Bible app, we're going to be over in James chapter 2. We're going to be James 2 verse 14. We're going to read there here in just a minute. We're going to talk about, after we get finished reading the text, we're going to talk about what we've read through and approach this idea of faith and works. For centuries, this has been a debated subject of the relationship between faith and works. And many people just don't believe what James has to say here. They think that James and Paul are contradicting each other. But when James talks about not being saved by works, he's talking about a different kind of works. And I think we got to be able to rationalize through that and think through that and understand that. So let's go ahead and read. We're going to begin there. James chapter 2, verse 14. James 2, verse 14. And then we'll talk about it. He says, "What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Depart in peace, be warm and filled,' but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what is a profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe there is one God, you do well. Even the demons believe and tremble. But do you want to know, O foolish man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham, our father, justified by works when he offered up Isaac, his son, on the altar? Do you see that faith was working together with his works? And by works, faith was made perfect. And the scriptures was fulfilled, which says, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted on him or to him for righteousness, for he was called the friend of God. And you see, then a man is justified by works, and not by faith only. Likewise, was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." So James is going to one of his favorite themes in this book. You have to do it. You can't just hear it or know it or say it. You can't just say that you have faith. You can't just say that you're religious, but don't do religious things like taming your tongue or visiting the orphans and the widows and helping them in their trouble or keeping yourself clean. And so here's James saying, you can't just say that you have faith, but don't do anything about it. In verse 14, James talks about a man, just some man who says he has faith, but he doesn't have any works. And so the question that he sets out here, there's two questions he sets out at the very beginning that he's seeking to answer in this text. Let's just section by section here. Is that what does faith profit? What does that kind of faith profit? And can that kind of faith save you? Yes, this passage is about salvation. It's not just about justification of our faith before men. And so James sets out to answer two questions in various different ways. And we'll see that as we go through here. Think about it. Has anybody ever told you they had faith? And then you look at their life and you know who they are, and you look at the things that they say, the things that they do in their life, and you just think, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know you had faith. Like what you do doesn't really measure up to what you're saying here. You know, you would have never known it if they hadn't told you. That's just theoretical faith. It's invisible. It's only detected when they announce it. That kind of faith may make you feel good about yourself or better about yourself, but it can't really save you. And if it doesn't save you, then what kind of value does that kind of faith even have? The whole point to faith is that it saves us. Look at James. Look at his illustration right here at the beginning of verse 15. James says, saying you have faith is like when a brother comes to you and they're in need and you say, good luck, be warm, be filled, and you don't do anything. You don't give them anything. You know, another passage about the poor and how we treat them. seems to be a real issue that James is trying to address in this. But how do we treat the poor? Is it compassion and that moves us to action, or is it more like empty theoretical kind of compassion? And so what good does your words saying be warm, be filled do for them? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't put clothes on their back. It doesn't warm them. It doesn't fill their bellies. It doesn't feed them. It doesn't really help in any way. And that's like saying you have faith without actually having works. It does nothing. It has no value. It can't save you. And in verse 17, right at the end of this section, notice James says faith without works is dead. 3 separate times, verse 17, verse 20, and verse 26. And really that divides our text into 3 different sections. So this is the way we're going to look at it today. But verse 26 later on, he'll say, for as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Like if you came upon a body and it had no consciousness, it was non-responsive, you tried waking it up, it doesn't respond, it has no breath, its chest doesn't rise and fall, it has no breath coming out of its nose or its mouth, it has no heartbeat, you check its pulse and it doesn't have any heartbeat, has no warmth about it, it's cold as ice. What would you already declare about the body? That is dead. And in the same way, faith without works is dead. Like faith is like the human body. It has to have vital signs to prove that it's alive. Otherwise, it's dead. No profit. It doesn't save you, kind of thing. Look at verse 18. Look at the next section here. In verse 18, we go back to somebody saying that they have faith. But somebody comes along, they start to justify not having works, and they say, well, we all have different gifts. They have the gift of works. I have the gift of faith. We can't all have the same, we can't all do everything, right? And the truth about it is we all do have different gifts, but that's not what this is about. Notice what James says about it. Show me your faith by your works, and then I'll believe you. Like you can't prove that it even exists if it doesn't do anything. A borrowed illustration. Like if I was to tell you I had a 1969 blue Ford Mustang Boss 302, had the shaker hood on the shaker hood, had the sport slats in the back, and has the black pinstripes down the side, and you come along and say, well, show it to me. I'd like to see it. And I said, well, wait a minute. You can't see it. Sorry, you can't touch it. You're not going to be able to hear it. You can't ride in it. You can't drive it. It takes invisible gas, and it has invisible tire markings on the road. And you're going to tell me, you're going to be like, well, you don't really have a car then. You have a figment of your imagination. You've made this thing up. That's what saying you have faith without works is like. It's not real faith. It's dead faith. It's a figment of your imagination. It has no value. It doesn't save. Look in the next section. Look at verse 19. Or not the next section, but look what he says in verse 19. James kind of throws down the gauntlet here, and he says, okay, well, let's consider theoretical faith is more than just words. But what do you do? What does your faith do that's more, let's just say you really do believe in God, then what are you doing more than the demons? Think about the demons. Did they believe that there was a God? Of course they did. They came and bowed before Jesus, and they declared God. Did they believe in Jesus? Absolutely. They were scared to death of what Jesus could do to them. Will their faith, will they be saved by their empty, hollow faith? No, of course not. And James is saying, well, congratulations. You, the devil, and the demons all have believed the same things. Think about it. What's the difference between what we believe and what the demons believe? Well, hopefully it's what we do. Let me ask you this. Do you believe in your doctor? And if your doctor was to tell you that you need to take some pills because they're going to help you, would you take them? You'd say, oh, well, he's an amazing doctor. I trust my life. I put my life in his hands, but I'm not going to take those pills. Do you believe your coach? If he tells you to do something on the field, are you going to do it? Oh, well, he's an amazing coach. He wins, but I'm not going to do anything that he says on the court. There's a difference. There's a difference between believing in them and believing them. You can believe that Jesus was and that he did, but do you believe him? Do you trust what he says? Are you going to do what he says that you need to do? Look there in verse 21, the next section, the last section here. He gives us two very notable examples of faith. Abraham, the father of faith. And what did he do to prove and to show his faith? Well, he sacrificed Isaac. The child of promise, that child that he'd been waiting for so long to receive. In fact, he was so afraid he wasn't going to get it that he tried doing a shortcut to getting to having the son. But this idea of sacrificing this son was a really hard thing for him to do. But God says, go, and he went. And because of his faith, because his faith was working together with his works, he believed God. Did you notice that, what we said? He believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. And he was a friend of God. But the second example is that of Rahab the harlot. And she was not only a harlot, but she was a Canaanite from Jericho. And what did she do to prove her faith? Well, Rahab not only believed what she had heard of God working through his people in the exiting of Exodus, of Egypt, and the conquering of the people of Canaan, but when they came to the city, when the spies came, she hid them and she sent them out the other way. What does this tell us about faith? Well, it doesn't matter who you are. From a patriarch to a prostitute, faith is the same thing. Faith believes, it trusts God to the point of acting when God tells us to act. Faith must be active. Otherwise, it's not really faith. Faith requires works. Faith without works is dead. Faith alone has no value. It cannot save you. Very much contrary to what many people teach in the religious world today, faith alone cannot save you. I hope you find that helpful. Hopefully, you find it. I find this whole section really helpful. This is a passage that I turn to often as I'm studying with others, trying to show them, trying to teach them what the Bible says about things. And because there's so much false teaching out there. But appreciate your time, appreciate your attention today. Hopefully our reading will be one that you don't just put down and forget about, but you'll come back to and you'll pick it up and read it for yourself and really think on it on your own. Appreciate your time today. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day. God bless.